And thank you so much for everyone for giving up part of your day to join us this morning to talk about the ultimate online marketing strategy blueprint. So it's quite a mouthful. Glad I've had a few cups of tea to get me going this morning. So marketing is a huge topic. I just want to echo as well from the intro, this is being recorded and I'm going to make all the slides available. So don't feel like you have to scribble notes away furiously. You'll be able to review the slides at your leisure afterwards. Much better that you can kind of just sit back and let it wash over you, and hopefully it'll spark some inspiration and some ideas. So we are into February already. So a lot of people traditionally will be, they spend January looking ahead at the year, what they're going to do with their marketing plans. And I think last year was a lot about, from a business point of view, just getting through, making it to the end of the year and hopefully, not losing members of the team. So this year we've certainly found as a marketing agency that people are looking ahead and saying, right, I know I need to be doing my marketing. I know I need to be online. I kind of know I need a strategy, but how do I develop that? So, in some ways this might feel like a bit back to basics, but it really is about giving you that blueprint, that framework that you have to always come back to and refer, to that as kind of, this is what I need to do to make sure my marketing is on point. So our objective today is to, I suppose, in a nutshell, to look at how to develop an effective marketing strategy that will give you the confidence to use all those digital platforms in the best possible way. So digital platforms can be anything from social media to your website, to your blog, etc., etc. There is time for questions at the end. If you've got a burning question throughout, pop it in the chat box. I'll try and keep an eye on it, although it's sometimes a bit tricky flicking between slides and chat box. So if I miss it, don't worry, I will look at it at the end and hopefully address any of the questions. So as I said, digital platforms, it's quite a broad term. What does it really mean? I suppose it's kind of anything that is web-based or online. So it can be looking at, as I said, blogging, your email marketing strategy, your website, your social media platforms. So have a think about which ones you're actually going to be working with. Because I think one of the mistakes that people often make is trying to kind of be all things to all people. So it's kind of, I know we need to do a blog. I know we really should be doing some email marketing. And, one of the ways that you often find that marketing doesn't work is if it's very ad hoc and sporadic. So to get the best return is if you have part of your strategy, you know what you're doing with it, you're doing it regularly. So blogging, for example, in terms of your blueprint, your framework, thinking about, okay, I know I need to be blogging. In that case, I need to commit to doing 2 articles a month, which will go onto our website and then feed into our social strategy so we can share the content there as well. And really, to be honest, two articles a month is plenty. That's enough to give you some Google juice, those keywords on your website. If you could do 1 a week, fantastic. And they can be a mixture. You think about guest blogs, think about your own content, think about news as well. So it might be events that you're going to, product developments, events, of course, I suppose virtual at the moment. Hopefully this year we'll be able to get back in rooms and face to face with people. Same with the email strategy. Again, just the kind of occasional email doesn't really cut it. You want to be kind of front of mind with people. So a monthly email newsletter that's kind of this long and is people scrolling through, probably not going to get you the best results. Far better to have an email strategy where, every week on a Friday lunchtime, your email goes out, for example, to the point where people almost come to expect it. So whether it's a business or a consumer, I mean, I certainly know that there's a social media newsletter I subscribe to. It always comes out Saturday lunchtime. So I know, and I kind of know to expect it. And that's where I get my kind of weekly news if anything's changing. And it's kind of a go-to for research as well. So as I say, don't worry too much about becoming a problem in people's inboxes. If they really don't like it and the content's not right, they're not for you, they'll unsubscribe. That's fine. You want the people there that are for you. Social media as well, again, that can feel a bit overwhelming because there are so many platforms now. You know, should you be on Facebook as well as Pinterest and TikTok? You know, that came into the arena, I suppose, last year. And again, my advice there would be look at where your likely customers are going to hang out. You know, if Facebook is by far the biggest platform still, far and away compared to some of the others. If you are a consumer, very visual business, then Pinterest is great for you. But if you're a more corporate business, perhaps maybe you're doing something in financial services, oil, gas, that kind of thing, not relevant. I would just not even waste your time on Pinterest. So this is kind of, part one. Let's nail down what are our main digital platforms, where are we going to focus our energy? And from there, what's your objective? So again, I think it's quite easy for people to go, well, I'm kind of doing it just because I need to. And depending on the nature of your business, you might have a director who's less marketing orientated, but might come in and go, we need to be on Facebook, or we need to be doing this. But there's always well, why? Why do we need to be there? And sometimes it's perfectly okay to be there just, for something like reassurance marketing. So reassurance marketing. So just to give you an example, at Green Umbrella, as a marketing agency, people expect us to be on Instagram. We don't use it hugely. It's not a lead generation channel for us. So we have a sort of policy in place that we try and just do one post a day, but kind of minimum 3 posts a week on our Instagram, because people expect us to be there. So it's reassurance. Whereas our blog, for example, is very much about brand awareness, potentially nurturing future customers. So think about the platforms you're using, and then think about why you're using them. And it's perfectly okay, as I said, to be right, we're just on this platform purely so I can keep an eye on what our competitors are doing, purely because it's actually quite cheap other than my time, so it's an inexpensive way of doing our marketing activity. So ideally, I would say, rather than having all 10 on the list for each of your digital platforms, you would probably only pick 3, maximum 4 objectives for each platform. Trying to do all things on there, again, will just lead to sort of head explosion, really, trying to juggle way too many plates. And again, kind of bringing it back to objectives. And this is kind of, if you're doing textbook marketing, or if you've studied a marketing qualification, or indeed kind of any sales, it often comes back to your marketing funnel. So, and occasionally you'll often find that a business has overall goals, marketing have their overall goals, but they're not aligned. So what we need to do is make sure, okay, what direction are we heading in? What's the aim for the business? And how does that align then to our marketing? So, really marketing should kind of have a seat at the table in those big meetings. So whether it's a boardroom, whether it's just business owners meeting, marketing needs to be part of that, because you are the one that is, helping to generate that interest. And again, too often people who are kind of less marketing orientated will jump straight to the bottom of the funnel, where they're pushing people to take action. And if you think about, just think about kind of things that you would buy day to day. I don't know, whether it's shampoo and shower gel, or, in the days when you could book a restaurant or something. It's very rare that you would see one ad or one piece of news and hit the button. What you want is, you're just gently guiding people. So at first it's about awareness. You might just be kind of, there's a Facebook ad that just kind of positions our brand. And then you guide them through. So again, same with email marketing, sending them an email that doesn't really ask someone to do anything. It's just about, here's the awareness. And then you move them through to something a little bit more engaging, where there's something that sparks their interest. And pushing them all the way through. And of course, people will drop out your funnel as you go along, but you are guiding them through to the point where they take that action. So again, going back to, sort of marketing and sales training, I'm sure if you've listened to sales presentations, they often tell you that it takes between 6 and 12 touch points before somebody converts to a customer. And all too often we give up a bit before then. So from marketing point of view, our bit starts at the top. Well, our bit kind of starts at the top of the funnel and works with a strategy to help build them through. So it's not always about an email or a social post that says, buy this, do this, click that. Sometimes it's more hey, we're just kind of letting you know we're here. So it's that awareness point before we move in to the interest. Okay, so once you've defined kind of where are we putting our message out there, and who is, how does that align with the business strategy, then we need to think about who's responsible. So is everything kind of on you, assuming you're the marketer in the business? Do you need to perhaps outsource? I'm just going to keep an eye on time as well. How is it? Good. So is everything on you? Do you need to potentially outsource? If you do, which bits? Is it the social media management? Is it the design and print? There are some fantastic tools out there from a design point of view that you can use from a free perspective or low cost. I'm a massive fan of Canva, so I'm sure there's some people on here that know that. It's a website, just Canva, but it allows you to design anything from an email newsletter to a Facebook post to a LinkedIn banner. You don't need to be a graphic designer. You can kind of put your logo on and brand it. So fabulous tool. But if you need something a bit more detailed, maybe you need to outsource some of your design work. Maybe it's the automation of your emails that you need to outsource. So think about responsibilities. Who do you need to assign what to? And one thing that I suppose is quite key, and I think we learned last year, is, if somebody suddenly goes on furlough, if, hopefully everything crossed, we won't be faced with such a dramatic change as we were this time last year. But it did kind of raise to us, okay, well, who's responsible for this? Who's got the logins? Crikey, if someone's gone on furlough or redundant, and we don't know how to access all this data. So make sure you've got that assigned, who's looking after it, who's it been handed over as well. So that's responsibility. Moving on from there, and actually all these kind of points that I'm going through, again, at the end, it almost forms like a questionnaire, like a health check, that when we as an agency take on new clients, we will ask all these questions, because it's a way of really getting under the skin of people we work with. So it is an online questionnaire. So again, as well as a copy of the slides, I will send you a link to that. So you can actually use this framework, complete it yourself, and then you will have the answers, which you can use, edit, share as you need as well. So one of the other questions we have is, what companies do you admire for their social media, their strategy, their success? It doesn't have to be people in your industry. It might just be companies that you think maybe they've got the tone of voice really well. So at the moment, obviously, so many global events and things going on in the ether. Some people kind of get it wrong. They get the tone of voice wrong, and you often hear big corporates that kind of go, oh no, we got that wrong. We were insensitive about, I don't know, maybe things going on in the States, and they have to make a public apology. Whereas others sometimes they pitch it really well. They kind of pick up on the sentiment of the nation, what's going on in the ether. They don't piggyback on it for commercial gain, but just by the fact they've done it so well, it helps promote their brand loyalty. So, think about that, and who are they? How can you replicate their success? What is it that they are doing well? Is it just that they, they're thought-provoking? Maybe they stand up for, there was quite a high-profile news story about the tea companies, so sort of Yorkshire Tea, PG Tips, all kind of getting together, and one of them, I think, had some racist comments, but all the other tea companies kind of got on board and said, yes, solidarity, and they hopped on that together, which was a fantastic, PR story. So they, rather than competing against brands in their space, they actually kind of said, no, we're behind you. We won't stand for, for any sort of negativity or, racism. I think it was racism was the kind of trolling. So, think about those. How can you replicate their success, their tone of voice, and promote that brand loyalty? And as I say, it doesn't have to be in your industry. It might be completely outside as well. It might even not be in your locality. It could be overseas. So, okay, next one, conversation techniques. So this is quite a biggie. And I would say, this is where you can start to get quite creative as well. So it's maybe a chance for you to kind of almost switch off switch off the laptop, step away, grab a drink and a notebook, and list all the discussion points and subjects of interest for your organization. So, and again, we have to kind of separate ourselves slightly, because we might think, okay, what would I find interesting? Which is great, because yes, you are probably a consumer, but are you really your target audience? So, yes, discussion points, subjects of interest, but it has to be within your target audience. So it's not always about this is who we are and this is what we do. So again, going back to kind of a framework and a blueprint, we know marketing is not just about buy this, click that. It's about building that awareness, that the sort of know, like, and trust sentiment. So often before people want to commit to buying your service, whether that's as a consumer or as a business, they need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. So if you are putting out conversation techniques that show you know what you're talking about, that show you've kind of got your finger on the pulse of relevant news, and that could be relevant news about a particular geographical area. It could be news from your industry. So for me, as I said, I get my social media newsletter every weekend. I get a chance to digest it, and almost then over the following week, I've got a series of posts I can put out that might be, here's an infographic about subject lines for emails, or here's the best time to post on social media. So it kind of positions me as someone who's, as I say, got their finger on their pulse, knows what they're talking about, and then hopefully then when I do put something out there that is click this, do that, people already know who I am. So it would be great to see that list of conversation techniques. You've got a good sort of chunky list there, and almost you can focus on potentially one a week. You can mix them up, but it just gives you, again, perhaps sometimes if you've got a bit of writer's block, what should I be blogging about? What should I be posting about? Come back to your list of conversation techniques and the subjects of interest, and then okay, I should be talking about this, or I haven't done a post about diversity for a while, so I'm going to go and find a news story on that, for example. Okay, so that's our conversation techniques. Affiliates, so this is quite a useful one as well. So if you are linked with any other businesses, so and that could be anything from your office provider. So if you are working with Iconic, you take your office space there, they're an affiliate, so you can actually think about what you can do in partnership, promoting each other, sharing content, guest blogging for them. It might be charities if you've got a chosen charity for the year. Any services or any organizations you're members of, so whether it's maybe a local business networking or a chamber of commerce. Again, so you can, this almost sort of weaves back to the conversation techniques. If you're thinking, what do I need to talk about? I need to plan my content for the coming month. Think about who you work with. Is there some partnering up you can do, or is it just you want to give a bit of a shout out to these people? So and again, that just kind of helps build some brand loyalty. So, when we look at where we get a return on our investment, or where leads come from in marketing, so hopefully you're kind of capturing where your leads come from. Referral is a big thing. So, for me, working with Iconic, aside from the fact that they're lovely people, they now know who I am and what I do. So if someone says to them, oh, I don't suppose you know anybody that works, as a marketing agency and can do this, they potentially alongside others could say, well, I know Green Umbrella Marketing do that, and it goes both ways. So yeah, think about who you are affiliated with, how you can pay it forward as well. It's not necessary, it's great to give someone that warm fuzzy feeling as you pay it forward, but there is potentially business to be gained from it as well. So think about who you can work with in your affiliate side. Trade magazines, so this is probably more on the business side of things. So if you are, for example, let's think, so in the recruitment sector, I've got quite a few clients who are in the recruitment sector. They have various trade publications in that arena, which they could subscribe to. Gives you a good idea of content. It helps you kind of know, right, what are people talking about at the moment. but again, also gives you a chance to submit content to these trade magazines so that they can, you know, yes, they might be looking for paid advertising. If paid advertising isn't within your budget, they will often take some editorial from you for free. So if you've generated an article, you've done some research, you've got something useful to share, you submit it to these trade magazines. They need to fill their pages as well. So if it's a meaty piece of research or something really useful that people would be interested in, you take a punt, send it to these trade magazines. They may well print it. They'll have it on their website, which will backlink to you as well. Again, all good for kind of Google juice as well. Just make sure if it's content that you're creating, it goes on your website first, because we want to make sure Google index your website before they index anybody else's. But trade magazines, they are a fantastic source of, you know, as I say, generating some ideas and inspiration of what people are talking about. Potential leads as well, so people you need to connect with that might be able to guest blog for you, come on a webinar, anything like that. And as I say, you know, a chance for you to submit some content as well. Think about your competitors. So it is useful every now and then, as much as we don't want to spend too much time kind of stalking and dwelling on what our competitors are doing. You know, I'm a big believer there is space in the market for everybody, and you want to kind of make sure that your brand is ahead because of how well you perform. But actually establishing who your competitors are and seeing what they're doing and what they're offering, it does help you set some benchmarks and maybe look at where you need to grow, what you need to target. And these competitors might be just simply, you know, sometimes they might be in not exactly the same sector as you, but they might be in the same geography and the same size. So, you know, if they're a startup, they're based in Dublin, you know, perhaps in the same building or office park as you, you can almost kind of marry up your benchmarks there. Or it might be somebody that's based kind of in another town, another city, but does exactly the same as you. You know, they're in the same sector. So as I say, you can kind of look at their conversation techniques, find out if they're just, you know, just churning out spammy sales messages, or are they actually engaging and building up some brand loyalty as well. Okay, I'm just going to pause and have a quick look in the chat box to see if there's any queries or if it's just content for weekly emails. Okay, I'm going to come back to that one at the end. Okay, fantastic. Non-communication. Okay, so we've looked at companies that are our competitors. It's absolutely worth looking at if there is anybody that you don't want to be engaging with as a business. So, I mean, competitors is obvious generally, unless you are kind of doing that. Actually, we stand with you. We think this is a great idea, and because you never know, there could be some collaboration in there. But if you are, you know, passing over that responsibility or documenting the responsibility of who looks after your social media or your email marketing, is there any business or perhaps individual? So occasionally when we work with small businesses, if we are taking on managing, you know, perhaps their LinkedIn account or, you know, even Facebook, you know, if they have somebody who's maybe an ex-employee who's left under, you know, not the best circumstances, it's worth knowing that, because we don't want to be targeting them, tagging them in posts if they comment, maybe not engaging with them in a conversation. So it's sometimes not the nicer side of marketing, but we need to know this so that we're not engaging with them. We just want to leave those people, those businesses over there. We don't want to be associated with them. So make sure you've got that documented as well. Oh, click happy, skipped over a slide. Okay, so another area of your strategy or blueprint is having a policy in place if you need to deal with negative comments. So hopefully it won't be something that comes up too often, but we all know now that people can be a bit keyboard warrior if they have bad service, if they have, you know, a product that's arrived, maybe it's broken, if it's chipped or damaged in some way, or if they just don't feel like they've been looked after. It's so easy just to hop on to Facebook or Twitter or somewhere like that and go, well, I think it's terrible, this has happened. You can see all the time people do it with, certainly with telecoms businesses. So with their people's broadband providers, they'll often be there going, oh, Sky are terrible, BT are terrible. Whilst you might not be a BT or a Sky or, you know, somebody in that size, There is a chance that you may get some negative comments, as I say, hopefully a small chance, but what policy do you have in place to deal with those adverse comments? We often have a rule that we kind of say, don't respond immediately. We want people to respond and not react, because if someone has sent a kind of inflammatory comment that makes you quite angry, how dare you go out there and say that? It's again too easy to be a keyboard warrior back. What we want is a calmed, measured response. So, sometimes we say leave it for 24 hours. Sometimes we just say leave it for a couple of hours, come back. Even if you just address it publicly to say, I'm sorry to hear this is what you've had. This is the experience you've had. Please DM us. We will contact you. We'll resolve it. This is not normally our policy, our style, whatever it might be. But it allows people to see you have publicly responded, your service is good, and you're doing something to rectify the situation. So have a policy in place for that. If it is out and out trolling and it's not relevant to your company, you can delete the comments. So there are ways you can do that, certainly on things like Facebook, and and you can moderate comments so that you can review them before they're posted as well. Okay, thinking about geography, I've touched on it a little bit as we go along, but having a defined geographical area that you're targeting, that you're working in, is again part of your framework. And it's quite easy to sometimes go, right, well, we need to be national, we need to be international, we need to be taking on the world. Absolutely great to have aspirations, but there are going to be logistical problems. Sometimes there is so much business and awareness to be had right on your doorstep that you're almost missing out by kind of going further afield. So think about where you can supply, where you can work with. And again, this may well have changed over the last 12 months or so, in that, yes, of course, we can't travel as easily as we used to. So it might be your geographical area has changed, or it might be that you've suddenly been able to go, actually, I'm not if you were a business, maybe a retail outlet. Unfortunately, lots of retail outlets have had to close. They've moved their business online, which has kind of opens up a bigger sphere to them. So think about where you can realistically work and provide your products or services to. It's slightly different to trade press, radio and local press. And again, this is great for both sort of a business to business product or service, as well as consumer items. So knowing who your local radio station, your local newspaper, again, not that people particularly buy newspapers hugely anymore, but of course they are all online and they all have their own social media feeds as well. So as I mentioned, if you've got something good to share, why not get in contact with the local press? It might be that you just tag them in a post on Twitter or Facebook. It might be that you find out their name and email them directly and say, look, I've got this to share. But wouldn't it be great if they come to you almost as a spokesperson? So if there's an issue going on, so as I say, I'm going to come back to the question, but I saw that it was from somebody who works in kind of holistic remedies and skincare. But if we had a question about, okay, it's a horrible time of year, how can I make sure that I'm kind of being well from the inside out? We want to go to that person and make sure we're asking the questions. We want some comments from there that are kind of the on the ground news. So find out who those contacts are. Just gently make sure you're connected with them. Again, almost think about that marketing funnel. You don't want to go straight in necessarily with a use this article I've produced. But if they know who you are and they know that you can talk knowledgeably about your subject, you will by default become the person that they want to speak to when that subject comes up. So a biggie, your target audience. And we could almost do a webinar just on defining your client persona. But clearly this is a big one. So thinking about your perfect customer or client, who are they? And again, as a kind of tip, I often say to people, it's worth thinking about a missing person poster. So if your ideal client had gone missing and you had to call the police and say they've disappeared, this is as much information as I can give you so you can find them. What would be on that? So again, we need to be a little bit careful about being exclusive. So not being inclusive to people who have different needs or natures. but think about what your client potentially looks like, their age range, where they live, where they shop, even down to the sorts of things like, well, what magazines do they read if they do? Where do they hang out online? Are they likely to be a Facebook or an Instagram? Are they not likely to be any? Is it that they're getting their news from online forums? So, think about the sort of places they might shop as well. So if you're a high-end brand, you might be thinking about, okay, well, what luxury brands would they follow? Would they buy? Would they be reading kind of country homes and gardens magazines? Or if you're kind of targeting maybe mechanics or that demographic, again, it could well be more trade press, thinking of kind of car magazine, motorbike magazines, anything along those lines. So niche down who your target audience is, because again, if you try and talk to everybody, you can end up alienating everybody. In some ways, it's almost not, if you lose followers or lose subscribers, if they're not relevant to you, it doesn't matter. You want to keep the people there that are engaged with you, who are going to turn into being your customers and have some loyalty to you. So make sure you've got that defined. Who are we targeting? What's their nature? So that, again, if someone joins your marketing team or joins your business, you can easily communicate to them, this is our client base, this is who we're talking to. But keep in mind, as I said, that can change over time, particularly if your offering has shifted over the last year or so. So that's our target audience. It's also worth thinking about who your clients are at the moment. So we often think about our prospective clients. These are the people we want to talk to. Who have we actually got on our books at the moment? Because again, as I said, referrals are a great source of business. If you've got clients that are happy, they will advocate for you, they will be there referring people to you. So think about clients that you've got on your books. You might have previous clients that have worked with you that are still happy clients. They've maybe just outgrown your offering, or they don't need your service perhaps because they recruited somebody who's doing it in-house, but still really value what you do. So if you are engaging with your clients and your prospects in a strategic way, again, it helps people who aren't in that sector. They're not your paying clients yet, but they can see how you interact. They can see how you look after your customers. So just some little thought-provoking questions at the bottom. A list strategy on Twitter. So I don't know if you know, but you can split all your Twitter followers. You can create lists. So you can create a list that might be industry news, local news, clients, prospective clients. So that when you go into Twitter, instead of being kind of bombarded by a full news feed, you can say, right, just show me my list of clients. And it means then that when you're using your time online, instead of kind of being on there and almost losing a couple of hours in the morning, you can spend half an hour and be laser focused and say, right, today I'm going to go and interact with my clients. I'm going to find out the industry news and share details from there. So you kind of cut out all the noise, just look at your list of customers and make sure you're engaging with them. And and sometimes it might be that you see some really significant news. So if you're working with a customer who has got a big event coming up, or is launching a new product that you want to, even if you just want to say congratulations or send them something, it's a really nice touch. Again, helps kind of build that loyalty and advocacy. Same with LinkedIn as well. So are you making sure you're connected with the decision makers? Have you invited them to follow your company page? Have you got a strategy around how many people you want to connect with each day or throughout the week? Again, it can be quite easy just to lose your time. Social media can be a bit of a time vampire. I think, as we probably all know, it's easy to scroll. You don't want that kind of easy to scroll, losing time to seep into your work day. If you've got a framework, a blueprint of how you're going to work, you can say, right, well, on a Fridays, I spend Friday morning on LinkedIn doing business development, inviting people to come follow our company page, etc., etc. Okay, so that was quite a whistle-stop tour. Oh gosh, and we already nearly are at time, so I am going to just have a quick look in the chat box. As I said, I will make the slides available. There is a link here as well. You can see to our fact find, the Green Umbrella Fact Finder. As I say, we use it for clients. It's part of our onboarding process, but you can have access to it for free. So to fill it in and see you know, if there's anything useful there and sort of thought-provoking for you. Oh, I must have missed a slide. So one last thing to think about then, your fun factor. So in all the content that you're putting out there, do you want to position yourself as we do, sometimes super cheesy, awful photo, I'm not actually in that one, but it helps people realize whether you're kind of maybe more of a serious corporate, so financial services, for example, often kind of maybe on the lower end of the scale for fun, whereas if you think about somebody like Innocent Smoothies, who are all kind of hooray fanfares, they're definitely more at the number 10 end of the scale. So think about where you are on that. That is all from me. Thank you.